Hello, I'm Dilek Tuna. You're watching A News. Let's take a look at the top stories this hour. US President Donald Trump announced a brief pause in the Strait of Hormuz escort mission following progress in Iran talks. Russian strikes killed at least 27 people in Ukraine just days before Moscow's planned two-day ceasefire. And Israel strikes killed at least 3 people and wounded 9 others in Gaza despite a ceasefire. The United States and Iran are once again at the centre of heightened tensions in the Strait of Hormuz, a crucial global shipping lane, as diplomatic efforts, military warnings and fresh maritime incidents raise concerns over the stability of the region.
The Donald Trump administration has announced a temporary halt to its naval operation, helping ships pass through the Strait of Hormuz, a vital route for global oil shipments. President Trump said the mission, known as Project Freedom, would be suspended for a short period after what he called strong progress in negotiations with Iran. He added the move followed a request from Pakistan, which has been acting as an intermediary. Despite the pause, US restrictions targeting Iranian ports will remain in place. He also said on Tuesday that Iran's military strength has been heavily weakened and claimed Tehran should surrender, adding that it is too proud to admit it.
They should wave, they're very proud. Maybe you won't see a white flag, but essentially that's already what they are. They should wave the white flag of surrender. In hockey they say uncle, right? When are they gonna cry uncle? But and they have another expression. If this were a fight, they would stop it.
At the same time, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio said Washington favors a diplomatic solution, noting that the administration is aiming for a deal rather than further escalation. Meanwhile, Iran's state media reported that Tehran has introduced a new system to control ship movements through the strait. Under the plan, vessels must follow official guidance sent electronically and secure approval before entering the waterway. Iran's Revolutionary Guard warned ships to stick to designated routes, saying any deviation would be considered unsafe and could prompt a firm response. It also accused US forces of carrying out actions that have disrupted maritime security and put commercial vessels at risk. As the situation remains tense in the Strait of Hormuz, fears of further disruption to shipping continuing to weigh on global energy markets and oil fluctuation prices.
Oil prices have eased and global markets moved higher as optimism grows over possible progress in the US-Iran talks. Brent crude fell to around $107 a barrel, with US oil prices also declining after recent sharp hikes. In Europe, major stock markets, including those in London and Madrid, rose by more than 1%. US President Donald Trump said there had been great progress toward a possible deal with Iran. China's foreign minister has met his Iranian counterpart in Beijing in their first talks since the US-Israel war on Iran began. The meeting comes just days before a planned summit between President Xi Jinping and Donald Trump. Al-Mahnur Maktoum has more from Beijing.
Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi met with Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi in Beijing on Wednesday, their first in-person meeting since the outbreak of the US-Israel war on Iran in February. The visit comes just 1 week before President Trump's scheduled summit with President Xi Jinping, making the timing highly significant. 2 issues dominated the agenda: maintaining the April ceasefire and reopening the Strait of Hormuz, through which a fifth of the world's oil and gas once flowed. Washington has urged Beijing to press Iran to lift its hold on the waterway, and while China has condemned the US naval blockade on Iranian ports, it has also grown increasingly critical of Iran's own closure of the strait. The standoff has driven the global fuel prices and raised fears of a wider economic shock. Behind the diplomacy, Iran was seeking clarity on whether Beijing might make concessions to Washington at the upcoming summit that could leave Tehran exposed. Araghchi reaffirmed the ties between the two countries would only grow stronger, but with Trump arriving in Beijing in just over a week, how Beijing navigates the relationship may shape the trajectory of the conflict itself. Mani Maktoum, A News, Beijing.
Israel's military urged residents of 12 communities in southern Lebanon, including areas north of the Litani River, to immediately evacuate. The warning follows what it says is a violation of the ceasefire by Hezbollah. It added that civilians in the vicinity of Hezbollah fighters or infrastructure could face danger and should flee as a precaution. Gaza's death toll has passed 72,600, according to local health authorities. Latest strike killed 3, including a teenage boy.
Tensions remain high in the Middle East as Israel continues its operations in Gaza. The Palestinian death toll has now reached 72,615, according to health authorities in the territory. More than 172,000 people have been injured since the conflict between Hamas and Israel began on October 7, 2023. Officials say at least 3 people were killed and 9 others wounded in the past 24 hours. Among the latest incidents was an Israeli strike on a police station in Gaza City on May 5th, where a 15-year-old boy was killed and several others were injured.
He sells bread to feed his siblings. He has 15 people to feed. Nobody feels for us. If we go hungry, if we die, if we are killed, nobody feels. What did this child do to deserve being hit while selling bread?
We suddenly heard a blast. I ran outside and found the police station had been hit. I looked and saw people lying on the ground, martyrs and wounded. I started moving and putting them in the car. We came here with a martyr. When will the war stop?
Earlier the same day, other Israeli strikes killed at least 2 more Palestinians, according to local health officials. There has been no immediate comment from Israel on the incidents. Israel has intensified strikes on Gaza's police force, saying it is used by Hamas to maintain control. Violence has continued almost daily despite the ceasefire, with both sides accusing each other of violations. According to Gaza's health authorities, more than 800 Palestinians have been killed and over 2,300 injured since the truce took effect in October 2025.
And Russian strikes killed at least 27 people in Ukraine just days before Moscow's planned 2-day ceasefire, raising doubts over whether the pause will hold.
Ukrainian officials say Russian attacks have killed dozens of people across multiple regions, hours before a proposed ceasefire was due to begin. The heaviest strike was reported in Zaporizhia, where authorities say aerial bombs and drones killed at least 12 people and injured around 20, damaging residential areas and sparking fires.
There was a cynical strike on facilities in the city of Zaporizhia with 4 guided aerial bombs. The enemy intentionally began attacking those locations with Shahed drones. For a very long time, emergency services and municipal services were unable to approach the location.
In Kramatorsk, officials say 5 people were killed and 12 injured, while in Dnipro, authorities reported between 3 and 4 deaths, with several others wounded. In the Poltava region, a strike on gas production facilities reportedly killed 4 people. Separately, officials in the northern Chernihiv region say a drone strike hit the city centre, injuring 3 people and setting an administrative building and nearby vehicles on fire. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has criticised the limited pause, saying it is not enough to halt attacks for only a short period. Russia has not commented on the latest Ukrainian claims. Meanwhile, Russian state media reported that a Ukrainian drone strike killed 2 people in the Chuvashia region. Ukraine has proposed an open-ended ceasefire starting at midnight, urging Russia to reciprocate. Moscow has announced a separate truce for May 8th and 9th, linked to World War II commemorations.
Chinese authorities have ordered all fireworks factories in Hunan province to suspend production following a deadly explosion. State media says at least 26 people were killed and 61 injured in a blast at a factory in the city of Liuyang. Officials say the shutdown is part of a province-wide safety review aimed at identifying risks and enforcing stricter standards. Liuyang is a major centre for fireworks production, accounting for a large share of China's exports. The cause of the explosion remains unknown. New Zealand is preparing to introduce a citizenship test for migrants from 2027, adding a new requirement for applicants seeking citizenship by grant. The in-person test will include 20 multiple-choice questions in English, with applicants needing at least 15 correct answers to pass. The questions will cover areas such as human rights, voting rights, democratic principles, the structure of government, and travel rules. Officials said applicants should understand the rights and duties of citizenship. Argentina's auto parts industry is coming under pressure as President Javier Milei's economic reforms open the market for cheaper imported goods, leaving local manufacturers struggling to compete after years of protection from foreign competition.
Inside a family-run auto parts plant outside Buenos Aires, machines are running below capacity as cheaper imported parts put new pressure on local production. Suspension parts maker Suspenmec says its sales are down around 30% this year after Argentina sharply eased trade restrictions.
We are feeling the impact of imports from so many brands, at least when it comes to suspension control arms, which have entered the market recently. They are basically the same products under different names, and they are clearly creating tough competition for us.
The pressure comes as President Javier Milei pushes ahead with economic shock therapy, including lower import barriers and a stronger peso. His reforms have helped steady Argentina's economy, but for many local manufacturers, the adjustment has been sudden and painful. Industry data shows auto parts imports rose 11.6% in 2025 to more than $10 billion, while imports from China jumped by more than 80%.
We've entered a new ecosystem where the opening up of the economy and international trade have put pressure on Argentine industrial companies, whose competitiveness used to depend on having the products and raw materials needed to produce. That's no longer an issue. Today, the issue is being truly efficient, and that's where the pressure is on all structures. Clearly, the unrestricted influx of materials from abroad has put pressure on the entire Argentine industry.
The impact is also showing in output. Auto parts production fell in the first 2 months of the year, while vehicle production dropped 19% in the first quarter. Analysts say parts makers are exposed because car producers can turn to cheaper imported components when local suppliers cannot match the price. For Argentina's auto parts makers, the challenge now is not just producing locally, but surviving in a market suddenly opened to global competition.
SpaceX has launched a Falcon 9 rocket carrying 24 Starlink satellites into low Earth orbit from California. The rocket lifted off from Vandenberg Space Force Base on Tuesday night. SpaceX says the reusable first-stage booster on its 24th flight successfully landed on a drone ship in the Pacific Ocean after separation. The Starlink program aims to expand global broadband internet coverage. The New York Times is facing a lawsuit from a US federal agency over alleged discrimination in its hiring practices. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission claims the newspaper passed over a qualified white male candidate for a senior editorial role in favour of meeting diversity targets. The US Equal Employment Opportunity Commission has sued the New York Times. accusing it of race and gender discrimination in its hiring process. The case centres on an internal promotion for deputy real estate editor in early 2025, where an 11-year veteran was allegedly overlooked despite being qualified. According to the complaint, the newspaper prioritised diversity goals, selecting a less experienced candidate instead. The EEOC argues this violated federal civil rights law and is seeking compensation for lost pay and damages. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll continue analysing the situation in Ukraine and what this ceasefire announcement could mean going forward. Stay tuned. Welcome back to A News. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has announced that Ukraine will observe a ceasefire set to begin at midnight, while reiterating that Russia could end the war at any time by halting its operations. The announcement comes alongside continued Ukrainian strikes deep inside Russian territory, with reports that domestically developed Flamingo missiles have hit targets more than 1,500 kilometers away. Now, to discuss further, let's bring in our guest, Rudolf Mihovic. He's CEO at Christian Medical Association, joining us from Lviv, Ukraine. Rudolf, welcome to the program.
Thank you for the invitation.
Now, President Zelensky's announced a ceasefire window while continuing to signal that Russia could end the war at any time. How should we interpret this message?
This message from Zelensky was in the terms of communication with President Trump with Putin. Putin asked about peace for 2 days for their parade in Moscow. But for us, it's not very clear how it's going to be done, because Putin asked Trump. But I think this was a wise move from Zelensky, a tricky one. If you're going to give us a peace before 6th of May, we will give you a clear message to have a good parade on May of 9. But right now, after Russia attacked us, we have a clear right not to have a ceasefire during 8 and 9 of May. So Putin cannot have his parade calmly.
So, Rudolf, at the same time, with the announcement of the ceasefire, Ukraine's conducting strikes deep inside Russian territory using domestically developed long-range systems, as we said in the intro. What does this tell us about Ukraine's evolving military capability?
So the message from Zelensky was, it's not just a ceasefire. The message was like, if you're going to attack us, we will reply. So it was quite a tricky piece. So that's why they launched Flamingo or other drones. But the numbers of drones were very low. Like Russians reports that today was sent 53 different drones. But we definitely can see that Russia didn't agree on ceasefire for today. But when we're talking about Flamingo, the rocket that being in the media a lot and kind of controversial company, Firephone, that produced it, we finally see that they're flying and they can destroy very important So this was never been done to Russia and any other country in the world attack Russia since World War II with ballistic rockets. So working and attacking, protecting cities from Ukrainian drones, Russia hardly ever can do it. But how they're going to react and what they're going to do with Ukrainian ballistic. Because we saw when we had American or British, French ballistic like Scalp or um, American rockets, they were effective. Of course, Russia has pretty good air protective system, but when we launch a lot, they were overloaded and they couldn't. So right now, there's a clear message to Putin. Doesn't matter where your production, doesn't matter what you did and created, we will get you. Is it 500 kilometers, Moscow, or 2,000 kilometers? Drones and rockets from Ukraine will get there.
Okay. Now, from your perspective, on the ground in Lviv, Rudolf, what does a ceasefire, even a temporary one, mean for civilians and medical services at this stage?
So right now, Ukraine is very, very in different zones. So in Lviv, most of the majority of the time, it's a peaceful or without rockets. Yes, hardly ever we have drones from time to time, like every couple months. But east of the Dnipro, Kharkiv, those regions, Odessa, under everyday Shahid and other drones attack. So it's been much harder right now. Every day we can see that there's more and more civilian people are leaving those territories because just yesterday, 1,500 kilograms bomb targeted Kramatorsk, the city of 60,000 people, and many civilians were injured. So in terms of our capacity, how we are living, it's quite peaceful here in Lviv in Western Ukraine, but it's very hard closer to the front. But we have a good move since a new vice of air protective system, Yelisei Nazarov. He right now he came from business, so he can do a lot of good things. And with Ukrainian interceptors that have been shared to Middle East countries, we can really stop them even on the front line. Though Shahid will not fly to the Ukraine in the deep, but we will stop them. That is the goal for next year.
And how are healthcare systems coping with the nature of the conflict, the prolonged nature of the conflict, particularly with repeated cycles of escalation?
It's a great question. What Ukrainian healthcare system went through, not other medical system, because it's not 100, it's thousands of injured, not only soldiers but civilians, and a massiveness. Those injuries are really dramatic. So we're trying to bring international experts to Ukraine so they can work side by side and create something new, help Ukrainian doctors to become better. So in the years, we created a pretty solid system that can have a good answers. And if you're going to see statistic, the amount of after injury death, it's much lower in Ukraine than in Russia. That I think the great show how valuable life in perspective of Ukrainian government or Ukrainian people, I would even say. We as a charity, we do everything that our injured soldier, doesn't matter, is it minor injury and he can come back to the front, or it's a massive that he lost his limbs and he will never come back to the front. We do everything. So the procedures, rehabilitation on very high level. Yes, we have a lot of things that we need to fight with, infectious disease control and other. But I think in last years, we grow in healthcare system a lot.
So even when military developments dominate headlines, the humanitarian impact continues. What are you seeing that may not be fully reflected in global coverage?
I think more and more civilians will be hurt because the war became very cheap, with not only FPV drone that Kildon is growing. We right now, our FPV drone can fly right now for 50, 80 kilometers. Just recently, we saw FPV drones in Donetsk city, not Donetsk region, Donetsk city. It's 80 kilometers from the front line. It's not a Shahid, it's not a big drone, it's a small FPV drone that can fly so far away. So killing people will become very, very cheap. So more and more civilians will be hurt. And that what is scares me, because those civilians are not deserve to go through the horribleness of war. So I think, of course, the killing methods are more and more, but I think we need to have answer for protections more and more. It's hard questions, but we are working on that because the biggest value is human life.
And Rudolf, for my last question, I'll go back to the ceasefire. Could this announcement be aimed as much at international audiences as at Russia itself? Because we're also seeing a positive response from the United Nations, which has repeatedly called for an immediate and unconditional ceasefire. Does this kind of international endorsement increase pressure on both sides to follow through?
I don't think so. Because so what finally this year became clear for Ukrainian government, maybe for Trump administration, Putin will not stop. Last call to Putin to Trump, or Trump to Putin, he told him a clear message: I will not stop. I will continue to fight. Yes, I need a break for my military parade. Give me a break. But I will continue to do a war. So I don't think Zelensky have a big expectation that international society, United Nations, and with the whole respect, President of the United States will push on Putin enough so he would stop the war now. Maybe more sanctions, more pressure, but it has to be really hard. At this point of time, we don't see any of the on the front line and in political life of Russia Federation. There is no signs that they will stop and any plans for a ceasefire. That is clear for regular civilians in Ukraine, and I hope it's clear for international political community in United Nations and in European Union.
Rudolf, thank you so much for joining us on the program. We appreciate your time and analysis.
Thank you so much.
We'll take a break now. When we return, we'll take a look at the key stories shaping the region.
The global defense industry plays a vital role in ensuring national security. In Turkey, companies in this sector strengthen domestic production and enhance military independence.
ISA-based radar, Murat radar. This is fully digital radar. This is new for world. Aselsan today, Turkish technology leader and global technology provider.
I'm Nuray Mustafa. This is One on One.
Welcome back to A News, and now we turn to our regional stories. Regional Cooperation on Agriculture and Food Security has taken centre stage in Baku as ministers and officials gather for Caspian Agro 2026. The talks come amid growing pressure from climate change and economic uncertainty. Our correspondent Abu Hayat Jafarova has more.
An international conference dedicated to agricultural cooperation and food security was held on Wednesday within the framework of Caspian Agro 2026 at the Baku Expo Center. The event brought together agriculture ministers and officials from Azerbaijan, Turkey, Uzbekistan and Georgia to discuss regional approaches to food security amid climate, economic and security challenges. Speaking during the panel session, Majnun Mammadov stated that nearly 35% of the employment in Azerbaijan is linked to the agricultural sector. He emphasized the importance of improving water management, modernizing irrigation systems and expanding reservoir infrastructure across the country. According to the minister, currently 10 to 15% of irrigation systems in Azerbaijan meet modern standards, while the government aims to increase this figure to 20 and 30% in the coming years. Special attention during the discussions was also devoted to sustainable agricultural development and the creation of green zones in Karabakh region. The participants also emphasized the growing impact of climate change on agriculture and food security, highlighting the importance of regional cooperation, experience sharing, innovation and sustainable agricultural development. Caspian Agro Week, featuring more than 400 companies from 45 countries, will continue through May 8. Abu Hayat Jafarova, Elkin Mektev, A News.
Baku welcomed the 5th Agribusiness Development Forum, where experts and officials explored the future of agriculture and food systems. The discussions also highlighted innovation and sustainable approaches to strengthen the sector. Chimnaz Shahlar has the details.
The 5th Agribusiness Development Forum has been held in Baku as part of the Caspian Agro Week, bringing together officials, international partners and industry experts. Discussions focused on food security, sustainable development and ways to strengthen Azerbaijan's agri-food system. Speaking at the event, Agriculture Minister of Azerbaijan, Majnun Mammadov, said the forum serves as an important platform to shape strategic approaches in the sector. He noted that Azerbaijan continues to prioritize agriculture with a strong focus on digitalization, innovation and the use of artificial intelligence. Participants also highlighted the importance of climate resilience agriculture, efficient use of resources and the expanding export potential. The forum continued with panel discussions and roundtables. I'm Chimnaz Shahlar with Zeynal Abdin Hassanov for A News.
Azerbaijani Foreign Minister Ceyhun Bayramov and EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaya Kallas have held high-level talks in Baku. The meeting focused on establishing a more structured partnership with a major emphasis on expanding the Middle Corridor and energy security. Highlighting Azerbaijan as a reliable partner, Kallas pointed to shared interests in trade and transport. The discussions also addressed regional security, including demining activities in liberated regions and the South Caucasus normalization process. Afghanistan's urban development and resilience efforts were in focus as diplomats and international organizations gathered in Kabul ahead of the 13th World Urban Forum in Azerbaijan. The event, hosted by UN Habitat, Afghanistan and the Azerbaijani Embassy, highlighted cooperation on sustainable cities and community development across the country. Our correspondent Tamim Bahis has the details from Kabul.
Representatives from the diplomatic community, the United Nations and international organizations gathered at Kabul's Grand Hotel on Tuesday for a pre-event ahead of the 13th World Urban Forum. The meeting was jointly organized by UN Habitat Afghanistan and the Embassy of the Republic of Azerbaijan in Kabul, with discussions centered on strengthening resilient cities and communities across Afghanistan. Heads of diplomatic missions accredited in Kabul attended the event, alongside officials from international agencies and humanitarian organizations. Participants were also briefed on preparation for the World Urban Forum, which is scheduled to take place in Baku, Azerbaijan later this month. Organizers highlighted the importance of sustainable urban planning, climate resilience, and improved living conditions for rapidly growing urban populations. The event also featured presentations on innovative urban development, including the city of Arkadag, where digital and green technologies are being introduced into public infrastructure and services. This year's forum in Baku is expected to focus heavily on climate adaptation, green urban development, and post-crisis recovery strategies. There has been no official confirmation yet on the level of Afghanistan's participation or whether senior Afghan officials will attend the forum in Azerbaijan. Tamim Bahis in Kabul, iNews.
Tbilisi announced a major push to position itself as the region's essential transit corridor with new railway, road, airport and port projects. Our correspondent Nini Nikolashvili has the story.
The centerpiece of Georgia's ambitions is the Anaklia deep-water port on the Black Sea. Alongside it, a rebuilt national railway, expressways completed by 2030, and a brand new Tbilisi International Airport by 2031, capable of handling 18 million passengers per year. Prime Minister Irakli Kabakhidze presented this as Georgia's bid to become a genuine hub between Europe and Asia. Parliament Speaker Shawa Papashvili added that whatever investor comes on board, the Georgian state will hold a 51% controlling stake in Anaklia. The problem is that Anaklia has been stalled for 6 years. Its original American-backed developer walked away in 2020 and no replacement has been found since. Opposition politician Irakli Kopradze put it bluntly. The government drove out Western investors, failed to bring in anyone else, and neither serious capital nor Western partners trust it enough to commit. The government says that negotiations are ongoing. What makes all of this more pressing is what is happening next door. In Yerevan this week, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen signed a new connectivity partnership with Armenia, praising its Crossroads of Peace plan as a genuine bridge between Europe, South Caucasus and Central Asia. In Baku, EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaya Kallas met President Aliyev, calling Azerbaijan a reliable energy partner and signaling a deeper structured relationship ahead. Azerbaijan gas is already flowing to Germany and Austria. Brussels is actively rewiring its South Caucasus relationships, but Georgia is not part of that conversation right now. Relations with the EU have been frozen since Tbilisi passed legislation Brussels compared to Russian-style foreign agent laws, and there is no sign of movement on either side. That leaves Georgia in an uncomfortable position. Ambitious infrastructure plans, but no political partnership to anchor them. Good roads and new port can still attract trade, but without closer ties with its biggest potential partner, Georgia risks being a corridor that others root around. Nini Nikolashvili, Tbilisi, iNews.
Kazakhstan hosted a major international technology forum in Almaty, bringing together global companies, investors and innovators to showcase the latest developments in artificial intelligence and digital infrastructure.
Almaty hosted the first GITEX AI Central Asia and Caucasus Kazakhstan technology forum focused on artificial intelligence and digital infrastructure in the region. More than 300 companies and startups took part alongside over 200 speakers and more than 100 investors from 50 countries. The exhibition featured dozens of projects from smart cities and digital transport to AI solutions for business and everyday life. We took a look at what developers are already bringing to the market.
What we do here is we develop a lot of use cases, especially on the HSE use cases, And you can see here, if in the live video, see for example now I'm wearing a live vest and it is detecting. You can see a green indication there. So likewise, if I wear a helmet, gloves, it will detect. The same way in the real world, we have a lot of use cases developed. You can, as a HSE perspective, we can monitor the complete compliance, the PPE, as well as we also, evolved with other verticals in the retail industries, the, refineries, in energy industries.
But AI applications here go far beyond safety. One of the main areas of focus is transport.
Self-driving car developed in Kazakhstan is being showcased at the exhibition, marking a move beyond the experimental stage. The project is expected to enter a pilot phase by the end of this year. It's being developed by a local technical university where more than 500 specialists are working on training the system in real-world conditions.
In the future, if autonomous taxi projects are implemented, there will be a need for specialists who can work with them. We are training students for this field.
These developments reflect how Central Asia and the Caucasus are becoming an increasingly attractive market for global tech companies.
These regions, like Caucasus and Central Asia, it always been in the focus of Lenovo, because we know that these markets has the huge potential, and especially if we take into account investments made in every republic, it creates opportunity for every key player like Lenovo to give them the chance to represent their solution and address the problems the customers might have.
Strong interest from international buyers and investors reflects Kazakhstan's broader strategy to strengthen cooperation with global tech players and expand international partnerships in the digital sector.
This is one of the busiest events that people have told us that the country has seen when it comes to a meeting point within the tech space. So it's not what I think, it's actually what you see when you talk to our, the 200 buyers that are coming to spend $61 million here in this market.
I think it's a big event in Kazakhstan. It's very important because Kazakhstan tried to build a big partnership with the big company and include international company like the JITEX. Yeah, and JITEX came from with a big international big tech company, and 85% they came in Kazakhstan at the first time. And for us, we appreciate this because we understand we need to cooperate with international company.
JITEX AI Kazakhstan has concluded, with the next edition scheduled for June 2027.
We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll analyse the potential reset of ties between Azerbaijan and the European Union. Stay with us. Welcome back to A News. We now shift our focus to a regional story for discussion. Azerbaijan and the EU are opting for a potential reset in relations as Foreign Minister Ceyhun Bayramov and EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas discussed resuming negotiations on a new partnership agreement. Both sides have emphasised the importance of rebuilding dialogue based on mutual respect, shared interests and strategic cooperation. Let's bring in our guest now, Elmira Talibzadeh, a political analyst at Caucasus Policy Analysis Centre, joins us from Baku, Azerbaijan. Elmira, welcome to the programme.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the invitation to discuss this important topic with you.
Now, what does restarting negotiations on a new agreement actually mean, Elmira? Are we looking at a reset or simply a continuation of an existing framework?
Thank you for the brilliant question. I think the recent meeting between Azerbaijan's Foreign Minister Ceyhun Bayramov and European Union's High Representative Kaja Kallas, where they discussed resuming negotiation on a new partnership agreement, is a clear sign that relations are entering a new phase between European Union and Azerbaijan. And in my opinion, as I think, this is not just a routine diplomatic contact, it reflects a deeper reality. Because today the European Union needs Azerbaijan more than Azerbaijan needs the European Union. And if we look at the numbers, the picture becomes even clearer. Since 2022, Azerbaijan has sharply increased gas supplies to Europe. In 2021, exports to Europe was around 8 billion cubic meters. By 2023, this figure reached about 12 billion cubic meters. And there are plans to increase it at least to 20 billion cubic meters by 2027. For several countries in the southern and eastern Europe, Azerbaijan gas already covers a significant part of their needs. In some cases, it's up to 30 or even 50% of imports. So when we talk about energy security today, I think we have to be honest, a very large shape of that stability is directly linked to Azerbaijan. And I think this is exactly where the balance has changed. After the breakdown of energy ties with Russia, Europe urgently needed a reliable partner and political stable partners. So Azerbaijan proved itself to be exactly the country that delivers on its commitments without turning energy into a political tool. And this is something that Brussels understands very well now. And at the same time that I want to add, Azerbaijan is not only about gas. In my view, its role as a transport and logistic hub to becoming just as important. For example, the middle corridor connecting Europe to Central Asia and China is gaining serious momentum. And again, Azerbaijan is right in the center of this route. For the European Union, for example, which is looking for safe and diversified trade corridors, this is not a theoretical project. For them, this is more strategic necessity.
Okay, so as you highlighted there, improving the relationship is critical, more so for the European Union than Azerbaijan. And Azerbaijan has emphasized that relations should be based on mutual respect and equality. How does that shape its engagement with the European Union?
Of course, we cannot ignore the recent political tensions. Azerbaijan made a very clear and I will say principled decision to suspend cooperation in some political spheres with the European Parliament. And this happened because of openly based and unfair position toward Azerbaijan. And here I think Baku sent a strong message on Monday that partnership must be based on mutual respect, not on some double standards. And now we see that the European Union is trying to correct this situation, right? The renewed dialogue, the signals coming from Brussels, all of this shows that Europe understands the cost of losing Azerbaijan as a partner. So in my opinion, this is why we talk about a new agreement are coming back to the table now. For the European Union, restoring relations with Azerbaijan is not just a diplomacy. I think for them, this is about energy security. This is for their strategic interests. This is about their economic stability. This is about their geopolitical relevance in our region, in the South Caucasus, of course. And without Azerbaijan, many of the European Union's current strategies simply do not work anymore or do not work efficiently. And for us, for Azerbaijan, the situation is different because the country has a multi-vector foreign policy. We have strong regional partnership and global importance. Yes, of course, cooperation with the European Union is very important for Azerbaijan, but this is not about only one option, and it is not mainly about cooperation with the European Parliament. And I think this gives Azerbaijan a stronger and more confident position in negotiation. So overall, I would like to say that the resumption of talks is a very positive step, but it is also a recognition of reality. Europe needs stable energy, Europe needs secure routes and reliable partners, and today only Azerbaijan is the one of the main key actors which provides exactly that.
Okay, as you alluded to there, Elmira, these discussions come shortly after tensions involving the European Parliament. How much has that episode affected trust between Baku and Brussels?
You're very right. Political relations have not been smooth, but Azerbaijan recently decided to suspend its cooperation with the only European Parliament. We know that this decision came after some steps toward based position of Brussels toward Azerbaijan, after what Baku described as based and unfair positions against us. And these tensions created a very serious gap in dialogue. And I think this is gap not for the first time. But now the European Union is showing clear interest in restoring this dialogue. That's what about this visit is. The meeting between Bayramov and Kallas is not happening by chance. Of course, it reflects a growing understanding in Brussels that without Azerbaijan in many spheres, as I said before, many of European Union strategic goals, especially in energy and connectivity, will be harder for them to achieve. But I think both of the sides will try to work on that. We will continue to work in our political dialogue also.
Okay, and at the same time, we're seeing the EU deepen ties with Armenia. How does Brussels balance its relationship across the region?
Actually, it's a very important question to be discussed. I think this is not about the negotiation process. This is more about existence in the South Caucasus region, because we know the relations between European Union and Russia trying to be implemented into some strategic or logistic project in South Caucasus. So when they're saying that they want to try to take a part or to mediate a process, negotiation process between Yerevan and Baku, I think this is more about the existence of the European Union, to have access to these routes, and this is very important for them in trade, in logistic, in long-term economic planning. This is not about European Union-Azerbaijan relations. This is more about the existence of the European Union in the region. And as we know, the future parliament in Armenia, they will say a lot about attention and attitude of the some Western or Western European actors toward the region, toward Azerbaijan and Armenia itself.
Okay, Almira, one last question. Could renewed Azerbaijan-EU engagement play a constructive role in supporting the Armenia-Azerbaijan peace process?
As we know, the process is more about the two-side negotiation, two-side dialogues between community citizens, community of Azerbaijan, expert community of Azerbaijan and Armenia. Also, not only on the high level between the Mr. President Aliyev and Prime Minister of Armenia, but I think there is no place for mediation, for some like role of for the European Union sector. For the European Union, this is more important not to be involved in the negotiation process, but first of all to rebuild trust with Azerbaijan. And this is not about only diplomacy. This is not about the negotiation process. This is about all of the sphere that we've been talking before: energy, ensuring stable transport routes, and maintaining influence existence in the South Caucasus, and in the other one, it is a matter of strategic necessity for them. So this is the first goal for European Union now, not a negotiation process between Azerbaijan and Armenia. Of course, it's very important for Armenian diaspora in some political circles in Western Europe, especially in France and in the other country, but it is not important for the European Union itself, because the first need that the European Union is energy, stability, is transport routes, and is maintaining influence in the South Caucasus because of the relations with some other actors of the South side.
Elmira, thank you so much for your analysis today. It's been a pleasure talking to you on A News.
Thank you so much.
That's the news for this hour. Stay tuned to A News for more updates throughout the day.